Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Tedd Nesbit of the 8th District in Butler and Mercer counties. Last session, the state legislature put an incredible amount of work into examining how our laws could better protect children from abuse of all kinds. During my time as Assistant District Attorney in Mercer County, I witnessed the suffering caused by abusers and recognized the gaps that needed to be filled in the legal system to bring them to justice. Thanks in great part to the work done by the House Children and Youth Services Committee, more than 20 new laws were created to better protect Pennsylvania's children. I'm pleased to have been appointed to a member of that committee in this session, and I'm also pleased to welcome the Majority Chair, Representative Kathy Watson, as my guest here today. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I know you,
and we're glad that you became a member of the committee.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And as you know, I requested to be on that committee.
Yes.
I have a background in working with the Children and Youth Services in my home county and saw the need for state oversight and to try to get some things done to help the children of Pennsylvania. You guys did a lot of work previous to my arriving in Harrisburg on that. Could you kind of describe what went into that and passing some of these new regulations and laws?
All right, very quickly. The previous governor, Governor Corbett, had appointed a committee, a task force, if you will. And of course, a lot of people think, oh, those reports just end up going on a shelf somewhere. And usually they're people that are just friends of somebody to get them that they have something on their resume. This was not like that. The task force on child protection was filled with people, somewhat like yourself, who in their past life had worked on child abuse and child neglect issues. They were pediatricians. They were district attorneys, lawyers who represented families, all kinds of folks. And indeed, they were led by a gentleman from my county, Dave Heckler, who had also been a state representative, a state senator, and then went back to be judge and was indeed president judge of Court of Common Pleas in Bucks County. So he had, I think, the good experience too of what do we do? We can put this report together, but how could we direct that it would actually become law, that it would turn into something? So it was my initial time to be a chairman, and I, like you, had requested to be chairman of Children and Youth. I was given a choice of 4 committees. We worked very hard, and I must give a shout out, you know him, but to Ron Marsico, who is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. We worked very closely with him because we all had the same goal. We wanted to take that task force report, turn it into laws that made a difference, and indeed shore up what were our child protection laws. But I think what we all forget is that child predators, and even those who think they're good parents but are guilty of some severe neglect, these folks, they change their, I call it their MO. And oftentimes the law stays static. It's the way it was and what we thought was good in 1990 or 95, and that's where most of the laws had come from. But the world has moved on, and we need to be ready to change. So I would suggest that one of the things that we did, and we kept talking about, was that the laws were going to be organic, that as your time here now and on the committee, you will see us now, maybe not for another year or so, but go back and look and say, all right, let's do a little report card on ourselves. Does this law work? Do we have unintended consequences? Should we do more? Or maybe we should do less. Maybe we did too much, and it's just, it impedes real understanding or protection for children, whatever it might be.
Well, and I know one of the things that came out of that set of bills was the background check
Yes.
registration. And it's had some pluses, and obviously we've heard from a lot of constituents that weren't happy with it. Could you just kind of describe what the intent was behind it originally?
Yes, the intent was really twofold. One of our committee members, Vice Chair Dan Mal, has said, he said, you know, it has the obvious intent that we are going to catch those who really should not be working near and around children. And indeed, it has. And we also found out, we've had people who just said no, because I do have this in my background, and now I'm driving a bus. And you're going, well, I don't want that person, you know, with our children. But it also, as Dan said, it's a preventive. It put a big net over our children once and for all and said to those who would be predators, stay away. We are going to be looking at you. We're going to record that you have worked with children. We, in effect, have an eye on all those who are involved, And we have standards, things that we expect you to meet in order to work with children, because after all, they are, and it's overused, but it is true, they are our most precious resource. And you think of your own children or children in your family, and they are precious to that family. So we need to protect them when they really don't have the ability to protect themselves in the way that an adult can.
And we went back and did some modifications to that.
We did.
And
I did the bill to do that because when I referenced you before and said, you know, we'll go back and look. I think we need to give it maybe the year to 2 years to work. Then we'll go back and say, wow, we didn't have to do this. This isn't helpful. Or, gee, we missed a whole segment that we've had a couple people come to us and say, well, then how come I can do this? One of the ones that has come up is that, especially in the summertime, your children may go to a church carnival or the big county fair. We have that, and we just finished our Grange Fair in Bucks County, where I'm from, and all of that. And yet, when they come into our state, these are transient people who interact with children maybe 3-4 days in a row, and they had an incident. They've had several. No one checks on them, and they're not required to have any kind of a check, or is their employer required to do a check on them? So you really don't know. So that's been in the newspaper and brought to our attention. Conversely, you have a group of some teachers that work with, I'll call it vocational young people out in the field, where part of their program is that they go out and they work in more of an apprentice, an intern type situation. And we require one person, just one, in the shop under the law to have a background check and to sort of function as that person's mentor. The young person may interact with 5 or 6 people at least in the shop. I think of if they're working in a auto body shop, they'll work with a lot of different people, but one person gets the background check and is the mentor, kind of responsible for that individual. Well, we've had some of the teachers in that group say, you're going to ruin it. People won't volunteer their business to do that. When I checked where I'm from, in the 5-county area, in and around Philadelphia, I didn't get that from any potential employer or those that have employed young people or had them in their shop. I shouldn't say employed, but worked with them in the past. But they have in other parts. I think that's one that we need to give it time to work, and then we'll go back and look and say, no, thank goodness, you know, if you were wrong, or uh-oh, I was wrong, and we need to fix that.
And I know based on the background checks, you've developed a website and a hotline.
Yes.
Could you describe that?
We have the website, which I think is really important for people on background checks, keepkidssafe.pa.gov. That has everything that Department of Human Services has ever thought about. And the nice part about it, it's not static. It is changing. They update it. So if you think you need a background check, but you're not sure, you can go there and look and find out. And certainly, and I know you're going to put it up on there, but we have a hotline for reporting child abuse. I might say that we also have, what do you look for if you think it's child abuse? That's on the Keep Kids Safe website. So you could use that to get a sense of, I think I'm seeing something, let me see what they say, and then you would go to the hotline to report it.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we get people involved, and if they have a question,
that's the idea.
You know, don't just stand by and hope that it's not abuse. If
right.
you think that it is, be proactive and do some research and then let somebody know about it. Right, and I guess one of the concerns that people have raised on the other side has been the cost, and that's been kind of modified.
That has been modified, right, so that if you're a volunteer, you're not paying a charge. And if it is for your employment, it's reduced to $8.
Okay. Now, that's one of the aspects of the committee. What are some of the other things that the committee oversees other than just the background checks and some of the clearances? So what are some of the other things?
We get a lot of bills. Again, the system is that a member would introduce a bill. They get a co-sponsorship memo out. They introduce the bill, and it's the speaker who assigns what's the basic subject matter of that bill, where does it go? And of course, we get a lot of bills referred to us in the Children and Youth Committee because in some way they have to deal with children and families. For instance, we've been working on updating some of our adoption laws because we've found that, and what prospective parents have told us that it is better for them to build a family by going out of state, which is terrible. But they go to Kentucky, they go to Florida, they've been to Ohio, and they list some others, that the laws just work a little bit better and quicker. And so they will go there to build their family. Well, to me, that says, you mean that Pennsylvania children then aren't being adopted? We need to work on that, and that's what we're doing next.
And I know that's very important to both of us, and I think it's critical that we make the process as easy as possible, because there's so many kids that aren't being adopted that we need to try to get some type of permanency for.
Absolutely.
So do you have any ideas on, is there bills pending on that? Or I know we just had one on medical records, but is there anything else pending currently in front of the
Representative
committee?
Petrie has a couple bills, and I've told him there's no pride of ownership, but we met over the summer, and I think some other members are going to, it's always good to have a member say, look, I'll make that my cause for the fall, or I'll champion this bill, because you and I both know that helps a lot. So, and if you have several to do, well, then you can't be as dedicated. So I like to spread them out among my members and say, are you interested in this topic? Good, you take that bill, you take this one, and let's see where we can go with it, because I think that produces a better piece of legislation. You go that extra mile because it's your bill, so you want to make sure that everything's right. We've also been talking, and we're in the very, very preliminary stages, but you know that over the summer we've certainly heard about one or two counties that have sadly been in the news because their children and youth departments have been somewhat deficient. Several have gotten a provisional license from the Department of Human Services, from the State Department of Human Services. So we need to really, I think, much like that task force, delve into that, and the committee is going to do that. What are the issues? What are the real problems? And what might be the state's role? What could we do to fix? Remembering that children and youth departments report directly to their local county commissioners. But maybe there are things that the state has oversight that work. I think the hard part for us is, and I'm sure you found that because you came out of county government, is that the fix that we do has to be for all 67 counties. And maybe you only need something for one or two.
And I think that's the difficulty, especially from the state side, is let the counties that are running well continue to do that.
Correct.
And then where counties need help, come in and help. But sometimes when the state comes in and helps,
it has to be everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have the consequences that they envisioned when they started in
Correct.
with the help. So I look forward to working with you, and thanks for being here. And that's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Tedd Nesbit. If you need any assistance with any state government matter, feel free to contact me at my local office or through my website. That information will be shown in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for Legislative Report.